Hi, my name is Chris Foreman, and today I'm going to introduce Dr. Melissa Hoffmann of the Tennessee TIES program in Memphis, Tennessee. A primary goal of the Tennessee TIES grant is to make caring for children who have experienced trauma a workshop for resource parents, or as we commonly refer to it, the Resource Parent Curriculum, or RPC, available across the entire state of Tennessee. Dr. Hoffmann, thank you for your willingness to share your insights in this podcast. My first question for you is, how has Tennessee TIES been working to spread the RPC?
Hi. The way that we've been doing this is we're not actually a foster care agency ourselves. We don't have foster parents that we can train here, but we partner with foster care agencies in our state that are interested in providing trauma training to their foster parents. And so we tell them about the resource parent curriculum, and then I team with them to help them choose and train their facilitators, think about all the things involved in setting up an RPC program in their agency, and then work with them so that they can implement the RPC and actually make it a regular part of their foster parent training. So by doing this, we're helping to disseminate the RPC throughout the state with several different agencies.
Thank you. It sounds like there's a lot of details to attend to. What makes the RPC different from other foster parent trainings?
Well, I think it's different in a lot of ways. The first is that it provides a more in-depth discussion of trauma and how it impacts kids in foster care than most trainings that our foster parents receive. But in addition to that, instead of just providing that information in a lecture sort of way, the workshop also provides opportunities for the foster parents to apply the information to the children that are currently in their homes or to children they've had in their homes in the past. So they can start to look at those children and their behaviors differently. So that's one other way that this training is different. Another way is that the subject matter can also be emotionally intense for the participants. Sometimes because they're looking at the kids differently than they have before, they have strong feelings about things that have happened in the past. Sometimes just talking about the subject matter brings up strong feelings for the foster parents. And so the dynamics in the group can become complex and emotionally charged pretty quickly. And so that's also a lot different than kind of the more general trainings that a lot of our foster parents receive. I feel like an RPC session can look like a training sometimes. Sometimes it feels more like a support group, and at other times it almost even feels like group therapy. And so having to take all of those things into account really makes the RPC a different experience than most trainings.
It does sound like there's quite a few differences. So, given that, how do you think about planning your first workshop and considering sustainability as you partner with these agencies?
Well, I think one of the most important things of planning to implement the RPC is in choosing your facilitators, choosing the people who are going to lead the trainings. A lot of times what happens is that the agency as a whole will be really excited about starting something new and invest a lot of energy in the very beginning, but then nobody really stays excited and it kind of fades away, and nobody kind of is the one that continues saying, hey, let's do another workshop, let's do another workshop. It's really important that you choose your facilitators carefully because they're the ones that are going to keep it going. You want the people who are facilitating your workshops to really be what we call champions, people who feel strongly about it, that think it's great, who think it's important, and want to keep doing it, no matter how busy they get. So it's not always going to be the best trainer in your agency or the best therapist in your agency that's going to be the champion. It's going to be somebody who this workshop and the information in it just really resonates with them, and that they enjoy leading the workshop on a regular basis. We find that when things get really busy in the agency and other obligations stack up, scheduling another workshop isn't a priority for facilitators who aren't very invested in the RPC. But the person who is really invested, who's the champion of the RPC, will always make sure that there's a workshop going on because it's important to them, even if they're busy doing other things. So one way that I've also found to increase the chances of the facilitators you choose being champions is that you allow people to choose to do it rather than, approaching your staff and saying, I want you, you, and you to be the facilitators. I think it works better if you approach folks that you think would be good, tell them about it, and ask them if they're interested. If they're choosing to do this, there's a better likelihood that they're going to get excited about it and become one of the champions of your new program.
Thank you. So if an agency were listening to this and thinking about starting workshops or doing workshops at their local area, and we're looking to choose some facilitators or help facilitators identify or self-select as champions, what are some of the important characteristics in your mind that a good facilitator brings to this training?
Well, I think like with any other training, you want your facilitator to have good public speaking skills, be really enthusiastic, be able to manage a group well, things that are important to do any kind of training well. You want your participants to want to listen to them. But since this is a training or a workshop that involves a lot of participation from the people who are there, you also want your facilitator, your trainer, to be able to pull quieter participants into a discussion. You want them to be able to effectively and gently set limits on your participants who are really talkative. And then also be able to keep the discussions from veering too far off course. Because we do know that foster parents have a lot to say, really need a lot of support. And so sometimes they'll be talking about one thing and it'll kind of go in another direction. So we need to be able to address that. It's also important that you have a facilitator who feels comfortable managing the really strong opinions and emotions that often come out during an RPC session. By doing this, they're actually going to be modeling some of the concepts that we're teaching in the workshop regarding how to manage your child's strong emotions. We want our facilitators to be able to model in a session how to manage the foster parent's strong emotions and strong opinions, and those will come out occasionally. In addition to that, it's very important that your facilitator has a really good working knowledge of the child welfare system, basic knowledge of behavior management of children, because those kinds of things are going to come up. Specific questions about how to manage a behavior, why things are happening regarding the system. So we want people to be able to answer those kinds of questions. But in addition to those things, I think it's the most important that your facilitators have a trauma-informed perspective on children and their behavior.
That's a really good point, and that's a phrase that we hear a lot, trauma-informed. What do you mean when you say trauma-informed?
Well, to me, using a trauma-informed perspective means that the facilitator can take a child's trauma history into account when they're thinking about that child's behavior and reactions to things. So someone who's trauma-informed has a solid knowledge of trauma, how it impacts kids, but then more especially how to view and respond to children differently based on that trauma knowledge. Since this is the primary message of the workshop, that we're really trying to help the foster parents have a trauma-informed perspective, it's really important that a facilitator is very good at it so that he or she can teach the others in the room how to do it.
I can imagine that not everyone is a good fit to facilitate this workshop. What happens when you don't, or when you do have a facilitator who doesn't turn out to be a really natural fit at this?
Yeah, unfortunately, not everyone's going to love facilitating the RPC. I don't know why, because I think it's great. It's just not going to be a fit with everybody. Or some people aren't going to be really good at it from the beginning. But before immediately just saying, you know what, you shouldn't do this, there might be some professional development strategies that people could pursue. They could work with a mentor, co-lead the workshops with another facilitator with stronger skills so that they can continue to observe that person and maybe learn by example. There also are several resources on the RPC Learning Center site that could be useful, that the person could read, some podcasts they could listen to get some tips and ideas of how to do it differently. And they can always participate on the monthly consultation calls that the NCTSN RPC work group sponsors, that anybody can call in and hear, talk to other facilitators and get their ideas about how they're implementing things. If there's several facilitators in the agency, small group discussion and practice with them might help. In the end, it's possible that you'll decide that someone just isn't a good fit and you don't want them to lead groups. But I think there's a lot of things you could put into place first. And then if they really end up not being a good fit, but they still believe in the RPC, maybe there are some other support roles that they could participate in so they could still be involved.
That's a really good idea. And as I'm thinking about it, one of the other questions I have for you is, it sounds like if you're really good at doing these workshops, you might get really busy. And do you have any ideas or insights about how you support facilitators and prevent them from burning out?
Absolutely. This is such an important point. Like I talked about before, when work obligations stack up, we want our facilitators to still be gung-ho about this and still want to be doing workshops. So I think it's important for agency administrators to remember that facilitating this workshop really takes a lot more time than just the 2-hour sessions every week. We need a lot of prep time to review material, to gather resources that we might need for any given week, to meet with the co-facilitator with lived experience to plan out each session. And possibly if there's been people who have missed a previous session, the facilitator might need time to do makeup sessions with them. That all needs to be taken into account. And also that a lot of times we're going to have to do workshops in the evenings to accommodate the foster parent schedules. So we're asking our facilitators to work outside of normal working hours maybe, and realizing that this is a good 4 to 6 hours a week to do this. And so it's important that agencies are taking into this account and adjusting the facilitator schedule, adjusting their workload so that they can actually do this work and not feel like it's a burden to them.
Those are all really good ideas. And I'm wondering, we're going to attach to this podcast a document that provides an overview. Do you want to say a little bit about that?
Sure. Our colleagues at the Center for Child and Family Health at Duke put together this really great resource. It is a 4-page article called Everything You Need to Know Before Implementing RPC. And it really is that. So it goes more in depth about what makes the RPC different from other workshops. It gives a really nice list of characteristics and skills that a facilitator should have. But it also talks about some specifics about how long it takes to conduct the RPC, how much time a staff facilitator will need, and those kinds of things. I really think it's a must read for any agency that's looking to start this as a regular program. So from the very beginning, they know what they need to be thinking about to make this work.
Well, that sounds like a great resource, and it makes a lot of sense. One last question for you, and that's a general one. Any final words of wisdom to anyone considering using this curriculum to deliver workshops?
Well, I don't know if these are words of wisdom, but I would strongly consider working with an experienced RPC facilitator or trainer if you can. If nothing else, to consult with somebody else and have somebody think through with you everything you need to take into account to get this started. If you're unsure about who might be in your area to be able to do this, feel free to email us. And then if it's not possible to work with an experienced trainer, there are resources available through the NCTSN RPC page that can help. And then utilizing the live consultation calls monthly to connect in real time with people doing this work can be really helpful for you. You don't have to figure this out by yourself.
Thank you, Dr. Hoffman. That's fantastic. I really appreciate your sharing your insights today and contributing to the cause.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.